I've heard you say it several times. You said, there are a couple things I know resonate deeply with my audience, so I talk about them in different ways
Yeah.
all the time. So what are those things, and how long did it take you to realize that those were the things?
Yeah, so when it comes to my personal brand,
Yeah.
so for anyone who doesn't know, like I said, I read a newsletter about social media strategy. My main audience is going to be social media managers.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fairly easy for me to understand what those points are because I am a social media
Right.
manager. So
So it's
there
happening to
wasn't
you.
much of
Yeah.
a learning curve there.
Right.
But I would say one of them is definitely being a one-person social team, having to manage a bunch of different platforms at once, very little
Yeah.
resources, burnt out. That's one pain point that I harp on a lot. If
Yeah.
you look at my LinkedIn, there's this one post that I post probably every 2 or 3 weeks. Every single time, it absolutely crushes.
Right.
It's the whole idea of a social media manager isn't a graphic designer. They're not a video editor. They're not a
Right.
TikTok creator. So hire
Right.
accordingly.
Right.
One thing that I realized, and this is true regardless of profession, so just think about this in terms of whatever target audience you're creating for. People love to be put in a position where they can vent without taking responsibility for it.
Yeah.
So they're not going to post that stuff on their LinkedIn because they're afraid that their
Their boss
is
is going to see.
or someone that they're going to get hired by is going to see that and not want to hire
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you
yeah.
can post it without the downside and they can like it or share it,
Right.
they still get to take part in that venting without having to take responsibility for it. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's one example. There's another example of like platform updates happening super frequently, like just it's overwhelming. But yeah, generally anything harping on being overworked, kind of work-life balance stuff, being burnt out,
Yeah.
people not understanding social media managers, which are all very valid things.
Right.
But it is kind of funny how like you spot those patterns of
Yeah.
what does well. And at the end of the day, like you're trying to grow an audience, I'm trying to grow an audience. So like we'd be stupid not to lean into those things
Totally.
in ways that make sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is pretty funny.